You can do everything right. You can be the one who got attacked. You can be scared for your life in that exact moment. And you can still end up charged with a crime for defending yourself. That surprises almost everyone the first time they hear it, because most people assume self-defense is a simple switch. Someone attacks you, you fight back, you're protected. The real rule is much narrower than that. And the gap between what people assume and what the law actually says is exactly where good people end up in courtrooms. This video is for educational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. Laws differ depending on your country, state, and specific circumstances. If you need advice for your own situation, consult a qualified legal professional. Now let's get into how this actually works. Every self-defense claim in the United States rests on the same foundation, no matter which state you're in. You have to show that you reasonably believed you were in immediate danger, and that the force you used was necessary to stop that danger. Notice both of those words carefully, reasonably and immediate. Not, I was scared. Not, I thought something bad might happen. Eventually. The threat has to be happening right now, or about to happen in the next few seconds. And a reasonable person in your position would have believed the same thing. Here's where the first big misunderstanding shows up. People think self-defense is about how they personally felt in the moment. It isn't, not entirely. Courts apply what's called a reasonable person standard. That means a jury isn't just asking, were you scared? They're asking, would an ordinary, sensible person standing exactly where you stood, seeing exactly what you saw, have believed they were in danger? 2. Your fear has to be understandable to someone who wasn't even there. That single distinction is why 2 people can face the exact same threat and walk away with 2 completely different legal outcomes, depending on how their actions look from the outside. Now here's the part that catches even more people off guard. Self-defense isn't just about whether you were allowed to act. It's about whether you used the right amount of force. This is called proportionality, and it's probably the single biggest reason self-defense claims fail in court. The law doesn't ask whether you were justified in defending yourself. It asks whether you were justified in defending yourself in that specific way. Picture this hypothetical. Someone shoves you outside a bar. No weapon, no follow-up, just a shove. If you shove them back, that's very likely still self-defense. If you pull a knife, most courts are going to see that as an escalation the situation never called for. The law expects your response to roughly match the threat in front of you, not the threat you imagine might come next. This is where a legitimate self-defense claim can quietly turn into an assault charge, because the person genuinely believed they were still defending themselves, right up until the moment the force they used stopped matching the danger they faced. And that leads to a moment that trips up more people than almost anything else in self-defense law. Knowing exactly when the threat ends, because the legal protection doesn't just require a real threat. It requires an ongoing one. The instant the danger stops, your legal right to use force stops with it, even if the adrenaline hasn't caught up yet. Here's a scenario that plays out in courtrooms more often than you'd think. Someone attacks you. You fight back and you win. They're now on the ground, no longer a threat. If you keep hitting them after that point, you're no longer defending yourself under the law. You've crossed into retaliation, and retaliation is not protected. This is one of the most common ways a legitimate self-defense case turns into a criminal charge against the original victim, because from the outside, continued force after the threat has ended looks exactly like an attack, not a defense. Now, there's a doctrine that changes this equation, but only inside your own home, and people badly misunderstand how far it actually extends. It's called the Castle Doctrine, and the basic idea is that your home is treated differently under the law than a public street. In most states that recognize it, if someone unlawfully enters your home, you're not required to retreat before defending yourself. And in many cases, the law presumes you had a reasonable fear for your safety, simply because of the unlawful entry itself. That's a meaningful legal advantage, but it is not a blank check. It still generally requires that the person entering was doing so unlawfully, and it still doesn't erase the proportionality requirement once the danger has actually stopped. Outside your home, the rules shift again. And this is where state law starts to genuinely diverge across the country. Some states impose what's called a duty to retreat, meaning if you can safely escape a threat instead of using force, the law expects you to try. Other states have adopted stand-your-ground laws, which remove that requirement in public spaces, allowing you to hold your position and defend yourself without first attempting to leave. This single difference, retreat versus stand your ground, has decided the outcome of real, high-profile cases in America, and it means the exact same set of actions can be lawful self-defense in one state and a prosecutable use of excessive force in another. There's one more twist that almost nobody expects, and it directly answers the question in the title of this video. Who started the confrontation matters enormously, even if the other person ends up throwing the first punch. This is called the initial aggressor rule. If you're the one who escalates a situation, provokes it, or puts yourself into it deliberately, you generally can't turn around afterward and claim self-defense once the other person reacts. The law is specifically designed to prevent someone from starting a fight and then hiding behind self-defense the moment it goes wrong for them. There's a narrow exception worth knowing. If you're the initial aggressor but you clearly withdraw from the confrontation and the other person continues attacking you anyway, your right to self-defense can return. But that withdrawal has to be genuine and visible, not just something you claim happened after the fact. So if all of this sounds complicated, that's because it genuinely is, and that complexity is exactly why self-defense cases so often come down to the smallest details. Was the threat still active in that final second, or had it already ended? Did the force match the danger or exceed it? Were you standing your ground lawfully, or did you have a legal duty to walk away first? Who actually escalated the situation, and did that escalation ever get walked back? Every one of these questions can shift an outcome from justified defense to criminal charge, using the exact same physical actions. Here's the perspective worth carrying with you after this video ends. Self-defense in American law was never designed to protect the person who reacted the strongest. It was designed to protect the person whose response matched the danger they actually faced, for exactly as long as that danger actually lasted. The moment either of those two things stops being true, even with completely good intentions, even while genuinely terrified, the law stops seeing you as someone who defended themselves. It starts seeing you as someone who simply won the fight.